I just said that I wasn't buying any more books, but I did. I can't help it. I had a gift card, and then I discovered Pango Books, which led me down a whole other rabbit hole. So this is a very shameful book haul, but a book haul it is nonetheless. Let's just get into it. So the first book I'm going to talk about today is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. This book is one I bought on Pango, but it's in great condition. It looks brand new, which is so exciting. It's a new, cheaper way to buy books. Which God knows I didn't need to find, honestly. But from what I understand, this book follows a woman whose wife goes off somewhere, and when she comes back, she's completely changed. And in that way, it kind of reminds me of the beginning of Annihilation, when Oscar Isaac comes back from that program and he's just a shell of himself, or an alien or something like that. I'm not sure if that's the direction this book is going, but that's just what it makes me think of. And I don't want to know anything else. I've heard that this is a really weird, kind of horror themed book, so I'm really into that, and I'm just excited to experience it. Next, we have Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. This book I don't know much about the book. I've seen the movie, but I feel like I can't describe the movie because what if it's completely different? But from the back of the book, it says that this follows Sophie, who finds herself under a horrid spell that transforms her into an old lady, and her only hope of getting back into her true form is Howl's Moving Castle, which she then goes to. I'm excited to experience this just because I love the movie so much. This is another one about Pango, and look what good condition it is. It looks brand new. I gotta get over that. I won't bring it up again, I promise. But yeah, I'm excited to experience this. I think it's gonna be a cozy, fun time. Then we have a book. I think this is the only nonfiction. No, this isn't the only nonfiction, but this is probably the most out there book that I have. And that is Neither Vertical Nor Horizontal by Rodrigo Nunes, A Theory of Political Organization. So this book has a little bit of a story attached, but not much of a story. Basically, I started attending a socialist book club in my city, and this is the book that they were reading, so I picked it up so that I can join the conversation next time. Well, I'm not going to join the conversation. I'm definitely just going to sit there and listen to people and not talk, but at least I'll know what they're talking about that time. So from my understanding, this is political theory about organizing and the different ways that you can organize. I think it's not a best way to organize book. It's more so let's just think about organizing. And I guess I need to explain what organizing is, because to someone who isn't political, it might just sound like making things tidy in your home office. Basically organizing people, a movement, if that makes sense. So I'm a little bit nervous about this one because based off of the first meeting I went to, they were just talking about the introduction, and it sounded very theoretical and it sounded very out there. And by that, I mean, I didn't understand everything they were saying. So I think this is going to be a hard one for me to read, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I will definitely be reading it so I can keep up with the book club. Next, we have a book I know nothing about, and that is The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. This book was given to me by a friend who was just getting rid of books. So is the next one on this pile. So it says, it's about this man who came to the red planet and he found the Martians waiting. Seeing the promise of a new beginning, the man brought with him his oldest fears and his deepest desires. Man conquered Mars, and in that instant, Mars conquered him. Okay, I'm into sci-fi. I want to read some classic sci-fi, and I've read Ray Bradbury before and I really liked it. Next, we have a book that was also given to me by that friend, and that is, what's this called? 10 Days in a Madhouse by Natalie Bly. This is about a journalist who spent time in a mental asylum to highlight how bad it is for the patients, and it took place in 1887. That's when it was initially published. So we're talking terrible mistreatment of the mentally ill. This one sounds really interesting, and it's super short, so I can get through this in an hour probably. I'm definitely interested in this. You want to come visit? Come here. Saphira has made an appearance. You have something to say? No, she does not. Next book. I never know how to say this author's name. This is Inseparable by Simone de Beauvoir. Beauvoir is how I hear people saying it. I always want to say Beauvoir, which doesn't make any sense. Okay, so this is a novel. And it follows two young girls who are best friends growing up. That's all I know. It kind of gives me My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante vibes. Kind of gives me Cat's Cradle by Margaret Atwood vibes. We'll see which one it falls into. This was very short. And I also really like Simone de Beauvoir's fiction, or at least I have liked what I've read of it so far, so I wanted to pick this up. And it was $6 on the website that I was on. Can't resist a good deal. And then we have another Simone de Beauvoir, and this is Memoirs of a Dutiful Daughter. This one's pretty self-explanatory. It's her memoir, and it talks about how she grew up in a bourgeois French family, how she rebelled as an adolescent, and striked out on her own. I'm interested to learn more about her. I read, the only nonfiction I've read from her is, what was it, A Very Easy Death, which was all about her mother's death. That one didn't really hit me very hard, which is a mean sounding thing to say, but it's the truth. But anyway, I love a memoir. I'm excited to read a memoir of an author that I really like, and obviously a very important person to French philosophy, blah, blah, blah. Next book I have is Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang. Okay, I don't know much about this one either. I know a lot of people have compared this to Rouge, which is right here. I haven't read that either. I know it has to do with like the beauty industry and it's horror, and that's enough to pull me in. I really don't want to read the back because I kind of want to not know much going into this, but I've heard a lot of people say that it's amazing, and a lot of people actually say that they like it more than Rouge, so I'm kind of excited to read both of them and see what I think. Next is a book I do know something about, and that is The Measure by Nikki Erlich. This book takes place like in our current world, so I don't know why I said that, but essentially one morning everyone wakes up and on their doorstep is a piece of string, and the length of that string determines the length of your life or how much longer you have to live. So you can just imagine the ramifications of this, like whether hospitals will let people in, whether politicians can run for office, how it affects your interpersonal relationships. Like, I know this book delves into like every possible imaginable consequence of this. So I just think it's a really interesting setup, and I can't wait to read this. This is very high on my TBR, but I was saving it because I was like, I have to film this TBR video first. But now that I filmed this, I can read the book, which is the best part. Up next is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I haven't read any Toni Morrison, which is such a shame. I have Beloved on my TBR. I tried to read it once, but I just wasn't in the mood for it, so I need to get back to it or start with this one. I might start with this one. This is about a young black girl who's mocked for her appearance and yearns to have blonde hair, blue eyes. But it says, yet as her dream grows more fervent, her life slowly starts to disintegrate in the face of adversity and strife. A beautiful examination of our obsession with beauty and conformity. So again, another just like natural beauty, another thing that's focusing on like beauty, although not the beauty industry this time, but that's something I'm very interested in because I am who I am. So I'm excited to read this. Okay, this book I feel like I can't describe because I'm worried that I'm going to spoil it, and that is Poor Things by Alistair Gray. Sorry. I'm afraid to describe this book because I've seen the movie, so I'm afraid that I'll describe it too much, so give me a second. Okay, so I'm just going to summarize what the back says. So essentially, this follows a medical student who finds himself completely enamored with this woman called Bella Baxter, who was resurrected by this man called Godwin, and that's all I'm going to say, because I feel like if I give any more information, I'm going to spoil the whole thing for anyone who hasn't read it or seen the movie. I did see the movie. I did enjoy it, but I always like the books better, or most of the time I do. Bridgerton does not count, is one that sticks out in my mind. But I'm excited to read this. I'm excited to see what I think. And yeah, next is another book that I saw the movie first, and that is The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. This is a beautiful book. Like, look how pretty that is. I think it's just so pretty with like the foil and everything. Ugh, love it. So this book follows some people living in a suburb. It follows a family of 5 sisters who all commit suicide, and it kind of follows like the boys in the suburb who are kind of obsessed with the sisters and their reaction to their deaths. Again, this is a movie I love. It's a book premise I've always been really interested in, and I just can't wait to get to it. Okay, this book I don't know much about. Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. I read Convenience Store Women by this author, and I didn't love it. I actually unhauled it. I didn't think it was bad, but it just wasn't for me. This book, though, I believe is a horror, and I believe it has some like fantasy-ish elements. I'm choosing not to read the back because I want to go into it blind, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've heard a lot of good things about this author, so I really want to give her a second chance and see if there's something else that she has made that can be for me. 2 last books. Second to last is Malice by John Gwynne. Holy shit, this is a beefy book, and it's kind of hard to hold. What I know about this book is that it's a high fantasy. That's all I know, and that's all I want to know. So I'm sorry I'm not going to give you a description. I just love fantasy so much. If you have any fantasy recommendations, please leave them down below, because I feel like I've read so much of the most popular fantasy that now I just don't know where to go. But I like picking up fantasy blind, and honestly I have a hard time describing fantasy anyway, so I wouldn't be doing much good if I tried. And the very last book that I bought for now is A Three Body Problem by Cixin Liu. This is a hard sci-fi. I believe it's first contact with aliens. Oh, the back does not say anything. It's on the inside. Set against the backdrop of China's Cultural Revolution, a secret military project sends signals into space in an attempt to make contact with aliens, and they succeed. An alien civilization on the brink of destruction captures the signal and plans to invade Earth. I don't think I've read much sci-fi with aliens, like maybe 1 or 2 books, but it's definitely not a common theme in the books that I have read. I also want to read this so I can watch the Netflix show, but I have seriously like heard very good things about this, and I am really interested in what about the Cultural Revolution like sparked interest for this author and made them write this book, but I'll just have to find out when I read it. This is also very high on my TBR. There you go. Those are all the books I read when I shouldn't those are all the books I bought when I shouldn't have been buying books at all. I'm sure that I will continue to buy books even though I'm trying not to, and even though they're not fitting on my shelves anymore. I have to double stack and it looks so ugly, and then I don't know what's behind these books. Like, I've completely forgotten about some of the books that are behind these, so it just creates all issues for me. All issues that aren't real issues, that are only an issue in my little head, and don't compare to real issues in the world at all. So there you go. That's my little spiel. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know which of these books I should read first down below, and I'll see you soon with another video. Goodbye.